So our first step is to always factor out the what? Very good. Sum and what's the other one?
The probability.
Product. Right.
Product.
We're going to identify the sum and product. Okay? Then step 3, it says to find the factors of the
Product.
right. And they have to add up to be. Very good. And then our last step is just to fill in those parentheses with whatever numbers we get, right? Okay. All right, so going straight into the examples for today. On number 1, what am I looking for first here? Right. And that is 3. So I'm going to take 3 out of all of these. So if I take 3 out of 3y squared, we're left with, good. What does that middle term become? The first one does become, and then the second one, negative 13. Very good. Y, and then my last term becomes
negative 30.
Very good. Okay. So then I need my sum and product, which are going to be negative 13 and
Negative 30.
very good. It is going to be 15 and 2, but because our product is negative, one of those has to be negative. Negative 10 and negative 3 would add to give me negative 13, but negative 10 times negative 3 would give me positive 30, right? And that wouldn't work. So it has to be the 15 and the 2, because only one of them can be negative to get us 30. Negative 15 plus 2 is negative 13. All right, so now I'm just going to make my parentheses. I put my GCF in front, and then my parentheses are going to be y minus 15 and y plus 2. Okay. All right, number 2. What am I looking for? And is there one? There's nothing in front of x squared, so no GCF here. So now I just need to identify the sum and the product. What's of those going to be? So multiplies to give us 2, adds to give us negative 3. Right? Both have to be negative. A negative times a negative will give us a positive, and negative 2 plus negative 1 will give us negative 3. Oh, I forgot to put this on the line up here. And then this one up here in the line. So I would have x minus 2 and x minus 1. Okay. Number 3, what am I looking for? GCF. And what's my GCF on number 3? 2. So I'm going to divide by 2, which what's that going to leave us with? Good. So this is that one we talked about yesterday, right? We call it a difference of squares. So our sum is supposed to be the middle number, but is there a middle number? So it must be 0. My product is, right? So what are our factors? Right. So remember our trick for these were that our parentheses should be exactly the same, just one of them has a positive and one of them has a negative. And don't forget that GCF of a 2 out in front. would be c squared. And then, what'd you say? Uh-huh. Okay. So what are our sum and product? Very good. Okay. So now I have to think of something that multiplies to give us 5, but adds to give us negative 2. So does 3...
Not 3 and 2.
There's only one thing that multiplies to give us 5, right?
1 and 5.
1 and 5. Or, since it is positive 5, we could have used negative 1 and negative 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
But are either of those going to add up to negative 2? No. So this is not possible to factor. So if you are given a question like this, they still want you to factor out the GCF, which we did, but you can't factor it any further. So this part would be your answer, just with the GCF pulled out. So just the 3 parentheses c squared minus 2c plus 5. Okay, so on the back, so this is them asking it those weird ways like we talked about yesterday. Remember, still just means they want us to factor. What are the factors whose product yields the trinomial 2y cubed plus 16y squared plus 14y? So first step is what? Divide by 2, huh? Yes, but not just 2, right? Is there anything else? Yes, they all have a y. So I'm going to divide them all by 2y. So remember, our GCF could be a number, it could be a letter, or it could be both. So I'm going to take that 2y and put it out in front. And if I take 2y out of 2y cubed, what's left? I squared again. And what will be left of our middle term? 8y, good. And my last term would just be, very good. So in order to factor, this should be a heads up to you so that you know if you need to pull out a letter. Your first term inside of there has to be y squared. So if it is giving you a cube, you should know you got to pull something out. We can't factor it if it isn't. All right. So here's my sum, and here's my product. Has to be 7 and 1. So 7 times 1 gives us 7. 7 plus 1 will give us 8. So I put my GCF in front, which was 2y. And then I have the y plus 7 and the y plus 1. Alright, number 6, it says to identify the expression that represents y squared minus 36 in factored form. So remember, that's that special kind we talked about called difference of squares. So is there a sum? Because there's no middle term, right? So my sum is 0, and my product is negative 36. Very good. So what's the only thing that multiplies to give us negative 36 and adds to give us 0? Right, and one of them is, remember our trick for these. Our parentheses are always going to end up identical. Just one of them is a plus, one of them is a minus. So I'll have y plus 6 and y minus 6. Okay. Number 7, we've got 4a squared plus 16, and they want us to express it as a product of factors. So what's my first step? All right, and what's my GCF? Very good. So I divide both of these things by 4, which is going to leave us with, good. Okay, so only have two terms, so is there a sum? No. And what's my product? 4. Is there anything that multiplies to give us positive 4 and adds to give us 0?
2 and 2.
So 2 times 2 would give me 4, but 2 plus 2 would be 4.
Negative 2. Positive 4.
It doesn't work, right?
So
Negative.
it's not possible.
So it's not possible. There is no factors here. But if you remember, when we talked about these yesterday, I said they were called a difference of squares because difference means we are subtracting, and this one is not subtracting, right? So if you're ever given a problem like this that has two terms with a plus sign in the middle, it's never going to factor because it's impossible to multiply and get a positive but add to get a 0. So the most we could do here is pull out the GCF. So on the test, if it's not possible to factor it, you still need to do this step, which was pull out the GCF. Okay. All right, one more like this. What's my step 1? GCF. And what is my GCF? 12. Good. All right, so if I take 12 out of those two terms, what are we going to be left with? Y squared negative 12. Very good. Okay, so I have a sum of 0 and a product of negative 12. Okay? Okay, is there anything that multiplies to give me negative 12 but adds to give me 0? This doesn't work either. So not possible here. So this one was a difference, right? They were subtracting, but the term is difference of squares. So the numbers that are in there have to have a perfect square root. 12 doesn't have a square root, right? 4 has a square root. 16 has a square root. 64 has a square root, right? So it's got to be one of those numbers that has a perfect square root. Huh? 14?
Not 14. 4
does. 4 has one. So again, here the most was pulling out a GCF. All right, last one. Says that a trim carpenter needs to apply crown molding around a rectangular window. The area of the window is shown in the diagram below. Find the perimeter of the window in order for the carpenter to determine the amount of crown molding needed in terms of X. Okay, so they told us that the given was the area, right? For this rectangle. How do you find the area of a rectangle? What's the formula? Length times width. All right, and this is the area. So I'm going to take that and plug it in for A. And when I'm done, I need to have broken it into two separate pieces, which is exactly what we do when we factor, right? So I have x squared plus 5x minus 6 that I want to factor. So what's first step? GCF. Does this have one? So my sum is 5. All right, this one does have a middle number. And then my product is very good. So it has to multiply to give us negative 6 and add to give us 5.
2 and 3.
So 2 times 3 would give me 6, but 2 plus 3, huh?
I got 6 more.
Right?
That would be negative 1.
Negative 1. Right. The reason our 2 and 3 wouldn't work is because one of them has to be negative,
Yeah.
and if we did, then we wouldn't be able to get 5, right? So here are our factors. We got x plus 6 and x minus 1. And we said, when we broke it down, we needed to be able to find a length and a width, right? So here's my length, and here's my width. Any questions? So, today there are some that do not factor, So something like this, it's definitely not. And if it's something like this, it doesn't have a perfect square root, it will not. But we also had one on the front that was normal looking. It just so happened there's nothing that